Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Punk Rock Horror Podcast. I'm Matt, and this is BandShowCase episode number 7. I was joined today by the amazing horror punk group Freakshow Sinema from Gainesville. It was fun to talk to these guys. I learned a lot about them. I got to hear about stories about bats and screwdrivers, which, of course, since it's a horror punk band, there's bats and screwdrivers. It's just like it's the norm, I guess. But anyways, it was great to talk to them. It was great to get to know them. And yeah, if you want to support the band, which I know you do, because again, you ghouls and gals are fucking amazing. Click the links in the episode notes below. Check out their latest album, Welcome to the Show. Now, it's definitely one you don't want to pass up on at all. I mean, it's horror punk. Who doesn't love horror punk? If you're listening to this and you've never heard horror punk, now you have no excuse to check it out. To not check it out. All right, let's jump right into the interview. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Punk Rock Horror Podcast, Band Showcase episode number 7. I'm Matt, and today I'm joined by the amazing Freakshow Sinema. My apologies. I'm joined by John Reardon, Cedric Egan, Ty Christian, and David Colzel. They are a horror-influenced punk metal band founded in the unsuspecting city of Gainesville, Georgia, with new and old elements to create a sound both familiar yet different. Welcome, guys.
What's going on?
What's up?
So, thank you for sitting in with me and doing this interview. I was really excited about this because, like, first, it's punk and horror, and you're on the Punk Rock Horror Podcast, so it just kind of makes sense. But yeah, thank you again for joining.
Thanks for having us.
Problem, yeah.
It was kind of funny how this got started because I think it was either I followed or I was followed on Instagram and was told to check out Freak Show, and I was like, okay, sure, why not? And I checked it out, and holy shit, you guys' music is fucking phenomenal. And I say that to all of our bands that come on here, but this kind of hits a personal note for me because this hits that horror punk vibe that I've fallen in love with over the years.
We appreciate it. We're glad you like it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. So let's get into it. Freakshow Sinema. How did Freakshow Sinema come to be? What's the backstory?
I have always been into, like, a horror-related music situation, but, like, when I was in high school, though, like, everything was divided. Like, if you were a punk kid, you listened to, like, Misfits and Ramones. If you were a metal kid, you weren't allowed to listen to that stuff. So after I graduated high school, then I started, I always listened to the Murder Dolls and Wednesday 13, because I guess that wasn't flagged by the punk kids at my high school. But then after I graduated, then I got into, like, Misfits and Ramones and stuff like that. And then I met Ty, who was he was into metalcore, and then I told him about the bands that I listened to, and he basically just, like, did a swan dive into horror punk, and he could now name you more bands than I could. But then me and him, we started talking about, like, hey, we should form a band since we're becoming good friends. We started becoming drinking buddies and stuff like that. And I'm a bass player. I'm not a vocalist. I'm not supposed to be a vocalist at all.
But I'm a bass player, too.
Yeah, he's a bass player. He was going to change to guitar, and then I was going to play bass. And then I did a Wednesday 13 impression for him one day, and he was like, you're not the bass player anymore. You're going to have to do vocals. And then from there, he met Cedric at a goth picnic thing or something?
Yeah, it was a World Goth Day, and we had a big event in Atlanta. And I went to that, and that's where I met Cedric, and I was like, trying to start a band, and he's like, I play guitar, and I was like, no fucking way. Cool.
And then we went through so many damn drummers. We tried to teach this one guy, but we had personal issues with him, and he just, I mean, he couldn't play drums at all. Ironically, it was David's cousin that we were trying to teach to play drums. But then we started going through all these other drummers that they couldn't understand horror punk. Like one kid was he street punk?
He was like street punk. Yeah.
And he just looked baffled by every time that we were like, yeah, but we want to make the lyrics like horror related. He was like, well, how does that work? Yeah. So then other things happened with him where it just didn't work out. But then Cedric and David were actually it was David's party.
Yeah, it was my birthday. Last year, I think, or almost 2 years ago. Yeah.
That was a long time ago. We've been around for over a year now.
Oh, yeah, 2 years ago then.
But, yeah, then the two of them were drinking, and Cedric was like, my band needs a drummer. And David was like, I need to find a band. And then, they just kind of, stared at each other for 10 minutes until Cedric went, oh, yeah, you're a drummer. And, yeah, then we picked up David.
Yeah, I've been tagging along ever since.
Yep.
That is a very interesting story, and then I will say that when I was listening to your album, Welcome to the Show, I definitely got a strong Wednesday 13 vibe from it, and I couldn't help but think of Misfits as well at the same time. Do you feel like Misfits was another influence on you, or was it primarily just like Wednesday 13 and Murder Dolls?
Yeah, Misfits definitely.
There's all forms of
I think it was a personal influence for all of us, but we kind of wanted to stay away from the cliche kind of horror punk.
Yeah.
Which is no offense, stuff like Misfits and stuff like that.
Yeah, I actually told the
so
guys when we started that we're not going to do any Misfits covers. That's a rule.
Which we have stuck true to.
Yeah, we have. Well, yeah, unless we're just drunk and playing around, then we'll just, fuck around and play one, but that's about it. You'll never hear it live or anything like that.
No. Even though I'm slightly pulling for the Monster Mash one day.
Well, technically, that's not a Misfits song.
Technically, it's not, but
still
their style of cover.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up because I was thinking the same thing. But anyways, going a little more forward from that. So we talked about horror punk recently on the podcast and how about horror movies and horror culture and punk culture kind of have this shared mutual interest of being more or less like the underdog, the underbelly of society and media as well. As being a horror punk band, you have a very strong following and it shows. What has it been like out there in Georgia and where you've played? What's your following like? What have you seen with the type of music that you go and tear up stages with?
Well, actually, when Ty was into metalcore and stuff, and then he started coming into the horror punk shows with me, and actually just in general the bands that I listen to, like Dope and things like that, he would go to these shows with me. One time I just looked over at him, and he was getting into the mosh pit and everything, and then he came out of it, and he almost looked like he was going to cry, and I was like, what's the matter? And he went, everybody here is just so nice. Nobody has an ego. Nobody's being an asshole or trying to be the most metal person here. Everybody's just nice. And I'm like, yeah, because there's no need to be a dick.
Yeah, coming from a metalcore background and playing in those bands, every show was a competition of who was better, who had the biggest crowd, who was the most brutal, et cetera, et cetera. As in the punk scene and the horror punk scene, they kind of blend in here in Georgia, and it's you see the same people almost at every show. It's like a big family, and it's just a really really fun time, I guess. And everyone's really supportive.
Yeah,
we got a lot of great local bands here too.
Nobody has who's a bigger, who's got the biggest schlong, Everybody's just cool with everyone.
I'm just glad somebody finally said schlong on the podcast. That's probably the first time that the word's ever been dropped. So right on, sweet. You heard everyone. Freakshow Sinema dropped it for the first time, schlong. So I want to talk a little bit about the scene in Georgia because obviously we're from Colorado. I don't know if you guys have done any shows in Colorado yet. But what is the scene in Georgia like? What is that punk scene out there like?
So we had a band, or we still have a band called the Casket Creatures, and they kind of founded the horror punk scene here, and it's very, like they said, tight-knit group. Everybody knows each other. And we're actually the third horror punk band to come out of Gainesville now.
Oh, wow.
Along with them and Die 95. So yeah, we all kind of share a fan base and friends and things like that.
Then there's also Elzig, who he sounds like Danzig. He looks like Danzig too, but he wears like this Elvis jumpsuit, and they do like Misfits covers, but then they'll do like punk covers of like Elvis songs. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, so the horror punk and the punk scene here is really nice.
Yeah, and we've kind of been thrown on shows with metal bands, and we've been thrown on shows with punk bands.
Yeah, a little smattering of a lot of different music.
We
I
just
think
ended up
some of the
fitting well.
organizers even they try to aim to do that, just kind of diversify a little bit.
Yeah.
Which is good because it gets us in front of new people.
Right.
Man, we play with a couple of thrash bands here and there too.
Yeah.
Is there a specific show that was your favorite that you played recently?
Oh.
In my personal opinion, I would say the Highlander. The Highlander is always like, the crowd's always just going at it. You know, there's always a pit. There's always everybody. Just energy is amazing over there.
It's a punk bar in Atlanta. They have shows pretty much every weekend. And it's always a good crowd, and it's right in Atlanta, so you get a good crowd no matter what.
Yeah. I liked our Halloween show with the Casket Creatures. That was another favorite of mine.
Yeah, that was a big show.
We had like a little Halloween show, October 27th, with the Casket Creatures, and I want to say, was it Neverfall?
Yeah.
And Neverfall, a thrash band from I think they're from South Carolina, and it had like a costume contest and like horror movie trivia and all types of stuff. It was really fun.
Yeah.
Was that the first time we played Pet Sematary?
I think so.
First time at a venue, yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Right on. So, I already mentioned it, but I do want to delve into it now. Your album, Welcome to the Show, which, again, kudos to you. I've been really digging Hellbound and Left Amongst the Dead. Very, very solid songs. What was it like making this album? Was there a specific inspiration you want to go with, that you went in with it?
I mean, like, not necessarily. We just we wanted to make like music that referenced all of our influences, but still was kind of original. There wasn't like a specific theme that we wanted for like the whole album in general. Like, I mean, there's totally different things for every single song. Like the first song on the album, Dead Girls, is really how I came up with the lyrics for that one. Was like with like Jason Voorhees, Ed Gein, a lot of different serial killers or horror icons that kind of have a mommy complex. So, and then like the final girl thing that's always in horror movies and stuff. That's kind of how that song kind of came about. With Hellbound, that one's kind of always misunderstood. I kind of made that as it's metaphorical for like depression and suicide and stuff like that. But everybody thinks that I'm just screaming about like demons and hell and stuff like that.
Oh, he means Satan. Obviously, he means Satan.
Yeah.
It's more about dealing with your personal demons for Hellbound.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think as far as the album, we just kind of would throw ideas out and see what sticks and go with it.
Yeah,
we made it into like more like just hanging out, playing music, and then eventually like somebody would come up with like Ty would write this juicy like bass riff, you know, and then next thing you know, it's just we'd all just start playing along, and next thing you know, we have a new song. I don't know, the chemistry for this band is on point for sure.
Yeah, it's like we never run out of ideas, but we do at the same time.
Yeah.
Right, hey, the band that writes horror together stays together.
That's right.
And just so you know, listeners, so we make it clear, Hellbound isn't about Satan, so don't think about Satan, okay? We gotta, just because it says hell in it doesn't mean you don't see Helena or Helen and think Satan woman. So, I mean, unless she's crazy, but you know, that's nowhere here, there.
Well, we do have that song too, Love Insanity.
Yep.
Oh, there you go. Exactly. Good point. So you talked a little bit about the scene down there in Georgia, and you talked about coming from a metalcore scene to a horror punk scene. I just kind of want to ask one more question about the scene down there to kind of give our listeners here in Denver and around the world, you know, what I want to ask is, what is the most unexpected thing that you came across within the scene?
Well, when Cedric almost got stabbed at one of our shows.
That was crazy.
And we were just trying to use the bathroom. I can't remember if it was before we played or after we
It was
played.
right before we were going to go on.
But Cedric was coming out of the bathroom,
Yeah,
and
so-
I was about to go in the bathroom, and next thing I know, there's just this dude going after somebody with a thing, and Cedric was like right in the way, so there was just like
dog
6
pile
of
right next
us.
to the bathroom.
We just took this guy down.
To sum it up, like, we play these shows in Gainesville and like Duluth and these kind of unexpected areas. So you get people at those shows that probably shouldn't be there, end up doing stuff they shouldn't be doing.
Yeah, they're not there necessarily for the shows. They just kind of like wander into the bar.
This guy pulled out like a shank, like literally in the mosh pit.
I heard a screwdriver.
Yeah, I mean he made a shank out of a screwdriver or something like that. So the bouncer saw it and grabbed him, and I saw the bartender, bouncer, or whatever, I guess both, and he threw him on the ground, and I saw that he was kind of struggling, pinning him down and stuff. So I kind of just jumped on the guy and grabbed the thing out of his hand, and we just kind of
tussled for a little while.
Yeah.
They didn't even call the cops on him. They just kicked him out and said, "Don't come back here again." And it was like, that dude should be in jail for that night at least.
Exactly.
Yeah, so he was just like outside of the venue, just like walking around.
But I mean,
we've had a lot of weird shit like that. I had a cholo hit on me one time at a show.
I had this really intoxicated big drunk girl try to kiss me.
Oh no! Everybody that was at that show that night had that.
Yeah, that was awful. I thought it was David coming up and grabbing me by my shoulders, but then I turn around and it's this big bitch leaning in for a kiss. And I'm like, no.
Ty, I love you and all, but I don't know if we can go that far.
No. So that was a thing that happened.
Yeah. No. It's the difference between like, being in the mosh pit and like having fun. You might get your nose smashed in a little bit, because somebody's throwing an elbow or something. But you bring in a shank, man. That's just not That's just not right.
And so that guy had nothing against you at all. They just a random dude with a screwdriver.
Yeah, he was just a random drunk dude with a screwdriver.
I think he was pissed off at somebody that was pushing him around in the pit.
Right.
Oh, and so
I think he went to attack a bartender first.
Something like that. And all I remember is there's a big pile of dudes right in front of the freaking bathroom. And I was just like, what the hell?
The only thing that I remember about seeing from all that is like I just look up and Cedric is just on top of a guy and trying to wrestle a sharp object out of his hand, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on here?
Yeah. I look one time, there's a big pile of dudes, next thing you know, Cedric's in there. I'm like, oh shit, come on now.
I mean, right on. Glad no one got stabbed, so that's the right on part. But still, I mean,
I think if Cedric did get stabbed, he would have been like, "I'm gonna wait to go to the hospital until after we're done," and then
committed.
Add it to it. And
bleed it out right now.
Yeah, bleed it out right now.
Don't worry, it's gonna look cool on stage. I promise. People are gonna think it's dope.
Yeah.
It's pretty punk rock.
Yeah, it's punk rock.
Actually, that's kind of funny. There is another band called Hembry and the Satan Sisters. Ty covers himself in Fake Blood before we play a lot of the time.
I'm a phony.
When we were playing that bar that they mentioned, the Highlander, at one point, the singer Zach Hembry, he legitimately pulls out, like pro wrestling style, pulls out like a little razor blade and cuts his forehead and bleeds everywhere.
Mm-hmm. So like straight up Gigi Allen kind of stuff.
Yes. Yeah. But what was funny was Ty goes to walk into the Highlander and the sound guy stops him and goes, "You can't be in here with that covering you." And then one of our friends, Robbie from 5 O'Clock Devil and Drink and Destroy crew, his girlfriend booked the show. He walks over, puts his arm around Ty and goes, "You see that up on stage? Yeah, he's fine." And then he just walks Ty in.
Right.
He's good. He's good. He's a little wobbly, but don't worry, it'll be hilarious.
Yeah, and we ended up playing right after them, so like the whole stage was covered in blood, and we're just kind of stepping in it.
Which is funny. We actually cover a Gigi Allen song.
Yeah.
We don't do the real blood thing.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, we don't throw poo at anybody either.
Exactly. Yeah.
Thought about it.
Yeah, I don't know many bands who have decided to continue throwing poo at their audience these days. So I mean, it's probably a good thing to stay away from. I mean, I'm gonna bring it up every time I can, but Mixed Kid Friday talked to us about how one of them saw a singer from another band like ejaculate into the audience. So I mean, I don't know what I would prefer.
I guess that puts Guar to shame.
Yeah, well,
That's pretty out there.
Yeah.
that's pretty nice.
I kind of want to see that. I like the shock value of things.
What I find is funny is that you didn't want to kiss him, but you're totally cool with seeing a dude ejaculating into the audience.
That is true.
Yeah. I like
him. It's cool.
I like the shock value of it. I'd like to see someone do that. Like, oh, holy shit, did that.
Oh, God.
So obviously, we talked about it. You don't really got much going on in February. The band's taking a break somewhat for that month. But do you have anything coming up in this year that you'd like to talk about?
Yeah, we have we're playing a big festival
Yeah,
kind of close to where we practice at my house. It's called Nuke-Lana, and it's a big post-apocalyptic festival. And I'm personally really into that kind of stuff, so I was like, why not? I'll just reach out to them and see if they want a horror punk band, and they were like, hell yeah. So we're gonna do that.
I think we were the one that got the idea rolling for having the music in the first place.
Yeah.
Now I think they have more
don't-
bands now.
Yeah, they don't typically have bands, but yeah, we're gonna kind of be the pioneer of that, so that'll be cool.
Speaking of pioneers, you did mention that you were the third horror punk band out of Gainesville.
Yeah.
And the reason I want to bring that back up is going back to your Facebook and your Instagram. You guys got a really strong following. You know, you got a lot of people following you, loving your music, reasonably so. I mean, it feels like, coming from an outside perspective, that feels a little surreal. I mean, how do you guys feel about it with all these people that still love listening to horror punk and still want to listen to you guys shred and destroy shit?
Well, I mean, for me personally, I've been going to these shows for years, and I just see, like, all these different people that I'm like, those people are cool, and then, like, the next thing I know, I'm seeing them wearing our shirts, and I'm like,
Right.
whoa, we got their stamp of approval. That's, wow.
Yeah, sometimes.
I don't think we expected the feedback and the reception that we actually got.
Yeah, sometimes we'll play shows and it's just like a sea of like our shirts, and it's like,
Right.
this is crazy.
There's actually been a few times where I've been like out and about, and there's like people that I don't even recognize that like have one of the shirts. I mean, it's only happened like twice, but still, like, that's a little surreal itself, you know. I was like,
Well, I'll be the
damn,
first
son.
to say, too, that we're not the best musicians, so the fact that we were able to
actually make a
coordinate enough
difference.
to-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, get people like us. And then for the online community, I mean, it's kind of like the horror punk scene on the online community seems exactly the same as it is here, just like one big family.
Yeah.
It's like almost everybody online knows everybody as well, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
First of all, I applaud you for saying you're not that good at musicians. I would disagree. I think you guys are fantastic.
Well, we appreciate it.
I didn't know how to tune a bass until I was in this band. I'll state that.
I mean, if it helps, it took me like 3 years to somewhat understand how to tune a drum, so I kind of get where you're coming from.
I feel you, dude. I feel you.
I just never felt like learning. I was like, man, I'm just gonna hit strings. Let's do it. I just wanted to play bass in a band.
Yeah, I think I handed you a tuning pedal because I was so sick of, like, Cedric was basically having to tune your guitar or your bass every practice, and
Hey, let's swap.
I had this tuning pedal, and I was like, here, this will tell you everything you need to know. Just tune it.
And it's been my best friend ever since.
So you did send us a song to play for the Ghouls and Gals after this episode. Song's called Love and Sanity. I'm sorry. I'm tripping over my words really bad right now. Let's ask about that song. Let's talk about it. What went into writing that song, and what was the inspiration for it?
Ex-girlfriends.
Yeah, ex-girlfriends.
Okay.
Crazy women or men.
As far as the instrumentals, that was one where we were just kind of like, all right, let's write like a simple 4-chord punk song. And yeah, it worked out. We have a catchy chorus for it. People like it.
Yeah, I think we were getting kind of frustrated trying to write like more complex stuff, and that like you're just like, screw it, and you just started playing that, and I was like, this is a song.
Right. Pretty much.
And it's turned out to be one of our most popular songs, I feel, when we play live.
Yeah. Well, I think it's probably the most relatable. I mean, come on, what person hasn't had like a crazy ex or some other type of thing?
It's like how I introduce the song every time we play it. It's a very relatable song, and if you can't relate to it, you're probably a crazy psychotic bitch, and nobody has fucking told you.
Exactly.
It's that old joke. What is it? You know, everyone has a crazy neighbor in the neighborhood, and if you don't know who it is, it's probably you.
Exactly.
You're probably the crazy ex. You need to get that figured out.
Right.
The bad part is that I, like, every time that I say that, I hear, like, woo! And it's like, no, don't woo. You don't want to be that.
Right.
This is bad.
No, we don't mean like crazy and bad good. We mean like crazy Jeffrey Dahmer,
Like, I'm
eat
about
your
to
heart
stab
out.
my significant other.
Yeah, this isn't like the Buck Cherry fun, oh, you're a crazy bitch. No, this is you're holding a knife to my throat and, like, things are getting a little too much.
Yeah, exactly.
I also think that's the first time anyone's brought up Buck Cherry on the podcast. So, for Schlong, now this. We're on a roll.
We're just saying goals, man. Just saying goals.
Oh, man. Okay, we got a little more time left. I want to go over one more question for you guys. And it's the last question that we asked all of our bands is, what is the craziest thing that you've experienced or funniest thing that you experienced at a show? Obviously, you talked about almost getting stabbed, but do you have one more that we can end on a lighter note?
I got one. In my old band, it was just a generic radio rock band. It was called Nowhere at All. I was the bass player for it. We had this song called Heroes, and I bought my singer, because he said that one of the guitar riffs sounded like the old Adam West Batman theme song. So I bought him this Child's Play set of, like, it had a Batman mask, a cape, and, like, little batarangs. And he would put that on every time that we would play this song after I bought it for him. And this one time, a real bat actually flew down into the bar that we were playing. It was the basement of another bar. And this bat just flew down and was flying around on stage the entire time we were playing that song.
Oh, we could also talk about the guy, my buddy's tripping acid that one time at Sweetwater. That
was
was
gnarly.
gnarly.
Stared at
Yeah.
Never Falls merch booth
That
for
was
like 3
intense.
hours.
We played a show with the Cats Creatures in Neverfall. I think I'm pretty sure it was our first time ever doing that. And I got a couple of friends that are into psychedelics and stuff like that. You know, they like to expand their mind, quote unquote.
Right.
And so he was like, man, I'm about to eat a 10 strip and just watch you guys play. And I'm like, that sounds like a terrible idea, man. Like, why the hell would you want to do that?
Jesus.
He's like, screw it, man. I'm doing it. You know, he got like 2 of my other friends to do it with him. The next thing you know, like, we get on stage and like all I hear is freaking my buddy Trevor saying like, Dave, you're so sexy. I
Don't
want to fuck
incriminate
you.
your friends here.
Yeah, I mean, you're my friends. They think this is hilarious, but no, like, freaking. Then you got my buddy Corbin. He's like, Neverfall comes on, and they have like, dude, their guitarist is really good. Like, his solos are pretty on point, and he's just shredding along. Next thing you know, you see my buddy Corbin on stage side just staring and crying. He's literally crying because he's like, this is so beautiful. I love this so much. It was the most bizarre thing I think I've ever seen. He was just tripping so hard. It was, oh man.
I went to a dubstep show once. That was weird.
Not just one thing in particular, just the whole thing.
Yeah.
To be fair, I've seen some screenshots from them dubstep shows that are a little out there, and I've heard of a lot of weird, out of touch psychedelic stories. If that
I don't know.
makes sense.
I was just trying to enjoy myself. Went with my friend, and the next thing I know, I just look over and there's this big girl and she's naked, and I guess she got high. I don't know.
Was that the same big girl that tried to kiss you?
No. At least I hope not. I'm not sure.
Maybe she saw you there and then saw you at the other show, and she's like, "It's fate."
No, she thought it was fate with every guy at that show.
That's
She
true,
like
yeah.
first she comes over to me and like she just comes over and goes, I love the way you scream, which, I mean, in any other instance that would be very weird, but I was just like, oh, thank you. And she looked like somebody else who had been at a show, and she was like, oh, do you know me? And I'm like, no, I have no idea who you are, honestly. And she goes, oh, well, I work with Cedric. And I was like, oh, that's cool. And then the next thing I see is she's bouncing from, like, one guy to the next, like trying to get somebody to hit on her.
Yeah.
And then she finally comes back over to our merch table and slams her hands down on the table and goes, "I love the way you scream." And then I'm like, okay, now we're getting creepy.
I'm gonna pack the merch up and go.
Right.
Thanks.
If we were gonna make this a sex thing, I would say since it's a girl singing it to a guy, there is definitely more of a patience there. But I feel like if it was a guy singing it to a girl, that would end up on the news really quick.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Pepper spray, arrested.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
He says I scream good. What's that supposed to be? And then instant triggering. But that brings us to the end of this interview. Thank you, John, Cedric, Ty, and David for coming on. Is there any last parting words you want to give to all the ghouls and gals, things they should check out for, anything like that?
Just find the album whatever you stream on, Spotify, YouTube.
Yeah.
Google, Amazon, iTunes.
Yeah, if you're ever in Georgia, don't be afraid to, look us up. We might be playing a show. Come check it out,
we just set up an online store where you can get our shirts and
Big Cartel, yeah.
other merchandise. We got some koozies and hard copies of our album and stuff.
Right on. And leave your screwdrivers at home. You shouldn't be
Yeah.
taking
Yeah,
this to a show anyways.
Screwdrivers at home.
With that being said, thank you guys for coming on. And that was our Band Showcase episode 7 with Freakshow Sinema. Bye, guys.
Take it
Thanks for having us.
easy.
Thank you. Of course.
Right.
That's all good.
No, that was a better experience than that first podcast.
Yeah,
that
for
we had.
real.
Yeah, it was. Talking's hard sometimes too.
Yeah. Oh, man. Right.
We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for
Yes,
having
thank you
us.
very much once again. I
Sounds
appreciate
good,
it.
man. Take
See
it
you
easy,
soon.
dude.
Take it easy.
There it is. That was my interview with Freakshow Sinema. As you could hear, like I told you, there was bats and screwdrivers in the story. Like, I don't know if you thought I was lying about that, but I told you. Anyways, enough being said. Thank you for listening to this episode, and let's jump into their song, Love Insanity.